I have a dream. Who do you think of when you hear those four words? I'm sure most of us can say Dr. Martin Luther King. And today I will be delivering my speech about how Dr. King made his words so impactful to so many people. In my speech, I will be talking about the background of Dr. Martin Luther King, as well as the importance of public speaking for his career, his major ideas, and techniques throughout his speeches. I believe Dr. Martin Luther King is relevant today and that his speeches are very relevant today and are still being quoted because things he spoke against and up for are very prevalent today. From pop culture, it says Colin Kaepernick had a message for his fans on Twitter quoting a letter that Dr. Martin Luther King wrote while he was in jail. And most of us know that Colin Kaepernick stood up for racial inequality and by taking a knee during NFL games during the national anthem. For racial equality and injustice for black people in the US. And that's what Dr. Martin Luther King preached about. I believe that I'm a credible source because I've done lots and tons of research about Dr. Martin Luther King and his speeches, as well as taking and studying public speaking this year. So I will be able to understand and dissect the context of Dr. Martin Luther King's speeches. My first point. Who is Dr. Martin Luther King? Why did he choose to be a public servant and speaker? And what all did he accomplish? Dr. Martin Luther King is from Atlanta, Georgia, according to biography.com, and he was born January 15th, 1929. His parents tried their best to shield him away from racial prejudice and segregation, but they could not. And Dr. Martin Luther King's father, Dr. Martin Luther King Sr., was a pastor who also spoke up against racial prejudice and segregation. This left a lasting impact on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. My second example, according to biography.your dictionary, the reason why Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. started the Civil Rights Act was because he wanted to abolish racial injustice and discrimination in many areas, including public transportation, employment, voting, and education. And I believe he did a great job at doing these things. My third example, a list of Dr. Martin Luther King's accomplishments from LearnNewtonic.com. My first example, Dr. Martin Luther King's first accomplishment was the Montgomery's bus boycott, which was planned by him and Ed Nixon. This boycott led to the U.S. Supreme Court ruling that segregation on public buses were unconstitutional. The second accomplishment for Dr. Martin Luther King was he was the first leader of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, which is abbreviated short for SCLC, which had a large impact on the civil rights movement. His third accomplishment is he led the Birmingham campaign, which led to the firing of Eugene Bull Connor, which he was a part of the Ku Klux Klan member and was the sheriff, I believe, the sheriff of this city of Birmingham's police department, and the city changed the discriminatory laws as well as firing Eugene Bull Connor. His fourth accomplishment was he was instrumental in organizing the March on Washington. This took place in Washington, D.C. on August 28th, and this march had over 250,000 participants, which led to the passage of the Civil Rights Act. His fifth accomplishment, he was the youngest Nobel Peace Prize recipient for his heroic efforts by leading by leading non-violent protests. And his last accomplishment of many that he's had that I didn't say in my speech is he became a symbolic leader for African Americans. He traveled over 6 million times and spoke over 2,500 times. And I know that was a mouthful, and I know I said a lot, but I wanted you to understand Dr. Martin Luther King's impact so that you will understand that the words he was saying was very, very, very influential to many people. So the things that he was saying wasn't just coming out of nowhere. There was a technique he used, which was a public speaking technique. So my second point is, why is it so important for Dr. Martin Luther King to have such great speaking skills? My first example is Dr. Martin Luther King was a preacher, and in order to preach, he needed those skills to execute preaching to people. And my second example is being a preacher meant he had to speak a lot. So he had to learn how to be comfortable in front of people and make sure that his words were conveyed and that his words were listened to and comprehended well by people that he was talking to. My third point is, his speeches were to uplift and inspire change in America, which was making people understand that we are more alike than we are different, and to lead with love and not hate. My first example of this is in the I Have a Dream speech. Dr. Martin Luther King says, "This note was a promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and justice, and the pursuit of happiness." His reference was from the Constitution. And instead of just white men having the choice and freedom of the Constitution, all men were created equal and all men needed these rights in the Constitution. And another example of his in his speeches in Our God is Marching says, we ain't gonna let nobody turn us around. And this was to uplift and encourage the marchers to keep on keeping on. My fourth and final point is Dr. Martin Luther King used many, many tactics to make sure that he made sure that the audience heard him and listened and comprehended everything he said. Example 1, according to blog.advancementcourses.com, he used strong verbiage, like calls to action at the beginning of his speeches, like "Let freedom ring." Another example of this is he did a great job at explaining his beliefs to people and explaining that it was important for them to also believe the things that he believed for a better life, for a better future. My third example of this is he knew his demographic and always stayed true to his demographic. He never strayed away from what his purpose was. He wanted to let people know that we are all created equal and that everybody should be treated fairly in this unjust world. My fourth and last example is his attitude towards his topic. He believed everything he was saying, so that came across to everyone else. They knew that he believed everything he was saying, so they could trust everything that he was saying, and that he wanted a better life for all of us. And to conclude, today I discussed Dr. Martin Luther King's background, his importance for public speaking for his career, his major ideas, and his speaking techniques. Dr. Martin Luther King is one of the most influential speakers ever. Today, I am glad that I was able to explain his legacy as well as his speaking methods in my speech. Thank you.